Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome back to Coding Session episode 4. Today we are moving away from coding bat and into the .NET framework. And this is actually more of a general programming video. We are in Visual Studio 2019 using C Sharp, and we're going to go over what for loops are. Now, throughout all languages, for loops should pretty much be the same sort of concept and what it is. So obviously it's going to be this. It works the same way in Java, same way Visual Basic, C, C++, Python. Python is the way to implement it. It's just a little bit different. So, what is a for loop? Kind of from the name, it pretty much is a code block that executes code multiple times in a loop under some specified condition. What do I mean by this? We're going to start by writing for int I is equal to 0. Now usually you go ahead and start with a variable. You create a brand new variable such as an integer that is specifically to be used for this for loop and then for this for loop only. So it's kind of like a local, not really like a local variable, but it's only to be allowed to be used in this for loop. Then you put a semicolon and put your set condition, I is less than 10, semicolon, and then so you don't have a endless loop. You have to increment or decrement it depending on the situation or whatever condition this for loop is executed on. So out of this for loop, especially when it comes to the console application C#, console.read will stop the execution of code to allow user input to be read. I'm only doing that so you can see how this works. So for int I is equal to 0, I is equal to 0. I is less than 10 increment I at the end of the execution. So what this is telling the computer is to execute the code within the code block 10 times. Remember, we start from 0 in computers in general. We start from 0, so it goes 0 through 9. That's still 10 times. And at the end of the code block, increment I by 1. And once I is equal to 10, the for loop is finished executing. So we can, this is right line, also that right line, hello world. Test this. Now you see hello world is printed 10 times. Now if we didn't have this console read here, the console window would go away immediately, so that's why I put it there. It's not really for the whole for loop thing. I just do it so you guys can see that hello world was printed 10 times. Now we could do stuff with I plus our current code execution in and loop plus I. Now this is very useful when handling data in like arrays. So as you can see, it prints 0 through 9. So let's create an array, an integer of arrays. Array, and an array is pretty much a collection of specific data types. So a collection of integers, collection of strings, etc. Collection of some class object. Int array is equal to new int, and I'm just gonna put 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 9. Some weird skips right there. And now we have an array of, or collection of integers in this integer array that's named array. So what I can do with this is, let's say I want to calculate I want to get the sum of all the integers, every single integer in my data collection of ints in array. So we could do something such as array dot length. So for int I is equal to 0, let's execute this for loop as many times as how many integers are in this array. Let's do int sum is equal to 0, and we can go ahead and do sum plus equals array I, and every time this code executes, it's going to take the current integer, which is I. It's going to go ahead and add 1, and then 2, and then 3, then 4, then 5, 6, then 6, and 9 into this int sum local variable. So it's going to collect, it's going to go ahead and sum up all the integers in this array, and then we just want to go ahead and console.writeLine for sum. See if that works. It should. As you see, the sum is 25 of our collection of integers. Yes. So you can go ahead and go about manipulating and handling data with for loops, and that's what for loops is really useful for. Or just go ahead and executing code repeatedly. There's many applications for for loops. As you are learning programming, you're gonna encounter some situations where you're gonna want to use for loops. So it's quite intuitive, and they are really useful in programming. So thank you guys for watching. Next video, we're gonna go over while loops, which is kind of similar to a for loop, but it is a loop. So stay tuned for that. So thank you guys for watching, and peace.